and also the age of our units. But we are doing the best that we can to try and make sure that our units can produce as much as possible with all those constraints that you've already mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you, colleagues. We have Clyde Melanson again. In discussions on the gas-dominated projects in the risk mitigation program, is there a current estimate of the equivalent cost per kilowatt hour given the steep increases in gas prices? Do you have that information, André, please?
I think, Sigunati, we should schedule a separate media briefing on the RMI-PPP. It seems there's a significant amount of interest in this. I don't have this number at hand. This is a media conference dealing with load shedding, not with the RMI-PPP.
Thank you. If you send us an email, Clyde, with all your questions on this matter, we will find the correct team to respond to those as soon as we possibly can. Craig Mockel has this to say. Given the diesel supply constraints to the OCGT fleet, what is the status of their conversion to also use gas? Assuming that gas would be cheaper and cleaner than diesel, what constraints is Eskom facing to procure gas, noting that small to mid-scale volumes can be delivered as containerized LNG well before an FSRU plus pipeline can be deployed from the nearest ports? I hope I read that well. Again, that's another gas question that I assume you don't have, André?
I can respond to that one, Sikunati. We are intending to approach the market with a request for proposals on the supply of gas to both Ankerlig as well as Ruyter. We have had the procurement process initiated, and we are in the final throes of being able to prepare that submission to the market, and that should reach the market imminently. We take note of your proposal on containerized LNG. If and when we approach the market, we would encourage bidders to certainly make those offers available to us, particularly having regard to the low load factor that is associated with those OCGTs. It is really quite a challenge to justify expenditure and permanently install FSRU and pipeline infrastructure based on the average load factor that we see for our OCGTs, which makes the situation rather more complicated. Thanks, Craig. Please keep an eye out on our tender portal where you can access this request.
Thank you, André. Peter Atat Montalto of...
And we're coming out of that Eskom briefing, as you heard there from Skonati Manjanja, that the next one will be on the 11th of May. Let's take you to this now. Democratic Alliance leader John Steenhuisen expected to visit Home Affairs offices in Newtown in Johannesburg as part of an oversight visit. It comes in light of the simmering xenophobic incidents in the country. We've recently seen Steenhuisen blaming the ANC-led government for the recent violence in Diepsloot, north of Johannesburg. Steenhuisen said the violence was the result of dwindling resources, which government must take responsibility for. For more on this, let's now bring in our colleague, Yolisa Njamela. Yolisa, what's happening where you are?
Well, it's a very good morning to you too, Desiree. In fact, the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, is already here. He got here a few minutes ago. He's currently interacting with the people who are standing outside in queues to go into the Home Affairs offices. He says he's here to do an oversight inspection. He's accompanied by other DA leaders, including, you'll notice that I've gone off camera quickly because we want to catch him before he goes into the offices. He says he's here to ensure ensure that he wants to understand what's happening inside. There's been reports, obviously, that have been widely reported that corruption is one of the major contributors of the crisis that we're currently facing in terms of illegal immigration. And I want to ask John, in fact, before I ask John Steenhuisen what he's hoping to get out of this visit, we also spoke to a number of people here who attest to what John Steenhuisen and the DA is saying, that there's a lot of corruption here. They have to pay, for instance, to even stand in lines before they go in, and they're constantly told that the system is offline and all other related issues. John, thank you so much for joining us. First, let's ask you, what are you hoping? I mean, an oversight visit is one of the cornerstones of our democracy.
To be attended to, and it is probably a question that we would wish in the future to also explore in more detail with the DMRE. Thank you very much.
Craig again has this to say: when could the market expect the launch of the procurement process for the repurposing or repowering of the 7 coal power plants identified for gas to power? Those include Komati and Ruyter, I should think. André, we possibly do have Mandy on the line as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer that one, Craig. In fact, we had a discussion on this very topic yesterday. Given the state of Eskom's balance sheet, obviously we need to be quite careful with how we spend capital. And we are currently looking at a variety of different options, including on a similar basis to making available Mpumalanga land, testing the appetite for the market to also install gas turbines at our existing power stations, given the fact that some of them are in quite close proximity to the main gas transmission infrastructure from Mozambique. You'll probably be aware of an LNG project being mooted for the Matola port in Maputo, which could address some of the shortfall expected to arise in the near future from the Pande and Temane gas fields. And this could be an opportunity for either a public-private partnership or for an IPP type of approach using existing infrastructure. There are constraints. There's obviously a loss of about 20% in efficiency on a gas turbine because you run it at altitude, so that militates against the deployment of gas turbines at altitude. Then we really need to understand if there are any real benefits other than accelerated grid access by doing a brownfields conversion. Brownfields conversions are typically far more challenging from an engineering and construction perspective, and it remains to be seen what the market response is to either greenfields or brownfields. And we intend to be testing the market on that. Bear in mind also that for any gas-fired project larger than 100 megawatts, and all of them will be larger than 100 megawatts, there will have to be a Section 34 determination, and such a plant will have to be accommodated within the energy planning confines of ILP 19. And there is therefore quite a regulatory road for us to travel before these plants can be either repurposed or can be made available for private investors to use as a base for installing their own merchant gas-fired plants. I trust that that's answered your question. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, André. That was the last set of questions we have. Anton Mera from Pretoria News. I have some information for you on the eThekwini municipality. Agnes Mlambo, the general manager of distribution in KwaZulu-Natal, tells me that the eThekwini municipality consumes on average 1,600 megawatt hours of power, and there are still 700 megawatt hours out. Eskom is helping the municipality with repairing the towers that fell during the floods, and these will be still off sometimes for some time. So the areas that do not have electricity in the eThekwini municipality are due to damaged infrastructure, which, as André did say in his opening remarks, that Eskom is assisting the municipalities in that area, including eThekwini, with repairs to the damaged infrastructure. Just let me repeat the numbers for you. On average, eThekwini consumes 1,600 megawatt hours, and it is 700 megawatt hours due to the damage. That's what they are out on now, or outages. Those were the last questions that we have had. And ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you again for your participation. Let's repeat, we will, as soon as possible, share this recording to everybody, both by email and on WhatsApp. Do you have any closing remarks whatsoever, André?
Thanks, Sigonati, and thanks, ladies and gentlemen, again for participating in this media briefing. We are working as hard as we can to try and restore supply of electricity, to end load shedding as soon as possible. We will continue to keep you informed and regularly updated for the duration of load shedding, so that you are able to also communicate to your stakeholders and plan your lives as best you can. We again apologize for this interruption to our normal services, and I can give you the assurance that the Eskom teams are working all hours of the day and night to restore electricity supply and end load shedding as soon as we can. Thank you very much.